Hello everyone and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Kirstine Stephen and I'm an Assistive Technology and Additional Support Needs teacher here at Call Scotland. Delighted to be joined today by Charlie Danger, who is an occupational therapist consultant at CENMAC. For anyone who isn't sure who CENMAC are, they're a team of specialists who support children and young people experiencing barriers to learning and/or communication to access the curriculum and to communicate using assistive technology. So a very good afternoon, Charlie. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me along.
Oh, delighted to have you. So today, Charlie is going to be comparing and contrasting some eye gaze options, including the new iOS version. I know people are very excited to hear all about this. So we do have people signed up for today's session from all around the globe. So a very warm welcome to everyone, whether you're joining us live or whether you're catching up with the recording later. Today's session is being recorded, thanks to my colleague Robert, who's in the background, keeping an eye on everything technical for us. The recording link will follow today's webinar by email. So please ensure that your microphones are switched off during today's presentation. And if you do not wish to be in the recording, then I would ask that you please pop your camera off now. The webinar is going to run for about 20 minutes and then there'll be an opportunity to ask any questions. But if you have any during the presentation, please do pop them in the chat pane and I'll facilitate the question and answers at the end. And I'll now pass over to Charlie. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Kirstine. Okay, cool. Right, I'm ready to go. I haven't really timed this, I'm afraid. So I've got my timer on to see whether or not we do hit 20 minutes. But
all right, I'll keep an eye as well.
Seems about right. Okay. So, a few months ago, I proposed doing this presentation on revolutioning accessibility, Apple eye gaze versus dedicated devices. And at the time, a few months ago, we didn't really know. So it's a bit of a risk. We didn't really know what impacts Apple's built-in eye gaze would have. But now we have a much better idea. And so I'm going to share with you my experiences, if that's all right. Kirstine was kind enough to mention who I am. I'm very fortunate that I work for a range of fantastic organizations, mostly in augmentative communication, but in assistive technology more broadly. Wednesday, is it Wednesday today? Wednesday? Yeah. Wednesday is my CENMAC day. So CENMAC gets top billing here. So as Kirstine said, CENMAC is an assistive technology advisory service. It was founded in 1968. We work across the whole of London and we work with a full range of students who require or would benefit from assistive technology in some manner to help them access their school life. I am just going to do a little plug for ACE Centre Learning. I hope you don't mind. So Ali Gaskin has been really leading this amazing new website and all these resources that ACE Centre have, and it's tons of courses. Some are free, but most of them there is a fee for, that are available at like a foundation stage all the way up to a postgraduate stage covering assistive technology and AAC. The reason why I kind of plug that, I'm one of the authors there, but the reason why I plug it is I'm always seeing on Facebook groups people asking for directions towards courses, and ACE Centre's got just really good courses for that. So I just wanted to give that a little plug. Okay, now then. So people often ask me, which is better, Apple eye gaze or the TD Pilot or the iRespond Hero or iTuitive. And fundamentally, I hope we all agree that there isn't one objective piece of technology that's better than another piece of technology. We kind of start developing our own preferences, I guess, into what we're confident with, but hopefully we're all comfortable using a system like SETT to feature match. So I won't dwell too much on SETT, but obviously we are going to be thinking about the student, and we're going to be thinking about the environment, and we're going to be thinking about the task and finding out about all those things before we consider the tool. Okay, so even if we look at Apple eye gaze and think, oh, you know, or depending how this goes, there will still be people in certain environments with certain tasks that certain tools will be for, if that makes sense. So I just want to be clear about that. Some of the people here may be wondering what Apple eye gaze is. Others may have downloaded it onto their iPad or iPhone and already had a look. Very briefly, the Apple eye gaze, it's probably got a different name. The Apple eye gaze is built in to iOS 18 and above. So iOS 18 came out in September, I think. It's built in, so it's free. It's part of the iPad or iPhone, and it works through the regular camera that's built in, the front-facing camera that's built into that device. So it provides eye gaze access to the entire system, whether you're using the operating system, or whether you're using Notes, or whether you're using Twitter, or whether you're using a communication aid. It gives you access to those things, and it works across a whole load of different iPads. You don't need like a really super modern iPad for this to work, but you do need a relatively modern iPad. I don't know the years all these came out, but I think some of them have been around for a little while. I have tried it on a couple of different iPads because I know that there's people who are interested to know whether it's better on newer iPads than older iPads. Well, watch this space. What am I comparing Apple eye gaze to? Are dedicated devices. Now, I want to apologize straight away because I've somehow missed off Liberator or PRC from this list with their great accents and look stuff. So I'm very sorry, Mark Street or anybody else from Liberator or all those wonderful people who use Liberator devices. I may also not in this list have stuff that you have in the United States that we don't have here in the UK, like the web slate, is that right? WinSlate, the WinSlate and things like that. But this is generally what I'm comparing to. Now, it is a bit confusing because a dedicated device would normally be something like an iSeries where I would say where the tracker is kind of built in. But now I'm calling dedicated devices anything with a dedicated camera like the Hero or the Alea or the PCI 5 or the Lumini or the Prime or Encore camera from iGaze Inc. or the Look from PRC. Anything with those cameras built in, I would say is you know, a commercial dedicated device as opposed to the Apple, which of course isn't commercial at all, which has the eye gaze built in. So I hope you understand the comparison between the two. I'm getting a thumbs up from someone in the room. Thank you very much. Okay, so basically one of the questions we need to do though, unfortunately, we need to take a little step back because we might be, when we're going through that SETT process, we may have made our mind up that we're going to go for iOS, and we may be thinking, do I go for the Apple camera or do I go for the Tobii Dynavox camera or the Hero or whatever? But actually, we also need to think about, do we want a Windows device or do we want an iPad? And we need to feature match that to the individual and their environment and the task first. Now, I'm not going to dwell here, but I would say that currently Windows generally offers quite a lot more flexibility than the iPad. Although it can be a little bit more complex, I suppose. But if somebody were to ask that question during the question time bit, I have actually a slide at the end that I can go to that lists the reasons why Windows in certain situations is better than Apple. I say better, depending on the student, the environment, and the task. Incidentally, I found this picture. I should probably say copyright of whatever website I got it from. I'm afraid I didn't. But curiously, the Windows monster is also an apple, but a square one, which I noticed, which I thought you might be interested to know. Anyway, I have contacted the eye gaze companies, you know, our friends over there in the industries. I've contacted two, Tobii Dynavox and iRespond, because they both make well-known cameras for the iPad. So, you know, they're going to have they're going to be very interested in this. There is another one, which is iTuitive, the inclusive technology cell in the UK, but I haven't yet had any experience with the iTuitive. So I reached out to Tobii Dynavox, and I got quite a lot of information from Tobii Dynavox, but effectively the summary is they say it's good because it increases global awareness by big tech companies getting involved in this. They have told me that it offers a broader range of choices for customers by having this, so that's nice too. But they've also said, like, they've reminded us that Tobii Dynavox sells medically certified communication aids, and they can be funded by entities that supply medically certified communication aids. They also pointed out that their TD Pilot has, better batteries, has the partner window, it has mounting plate speakers, it comes with TD Snap, TD Talk, and it also has 5 years of TD Care, which means if you break it, they replace it. So although they're saying, and they also pointed out that their trackers are optimized specifically for their users, after many years of research and development. So they're kind of striking this rather nice balance of saying, like, yeah, there is what Apple is doing is good, and it is going to increase awareness and help people. But hey, there are lots of advantages of using our system. I respond with the same. They were also nice. They said, hey, hang on a minute. We're able to combine Apple's technology with our technology. And it's worth remembering that the assistive touch part of the iPad that was obviously meant originally for touch actually provides access to all of the features of the eye gaze. So the collaboration between the eye gaze companies and Apple is obviously quite significant. Eduardo at iRespond also pointed out that there are lots of regions in the world that have limited funding, and that maybe actually eye tracking would be good for those people. But they mentioned that the calibration process in particular with the Apple is limited and lengthy, and that the accuracy falls short. Okay. My feature comparison from lots of use then. So this is kind of what I've been finding. So one, the same thing that both Apple has and Hero has and TD Pilot have is they have smoothing, they have access to all the assistive touch features, and they use Dwell as an access method. Okay, they're the things that are the same. Differences, the cost. So the cost of the Apple One is included in the Pilot, the iPad. So the iTuitive and the iRespond Hero are about £2,500 plus the iPad. So depending on what iPad you're buying, you may be looking at about £3,500. The TD Pilot is a lot more expensive. That's about 6,900, but it is a different product, and it comes with the communication aid built in, and it has TD Care and all that sort of stuff. The other differences are the Apple works on the iPhone. I've not tried it, but anybody with an iPhone has probably tried it. It has an automatic keyboard zoom option. This comes up and is available for both, but I can't get it to work with the other cameras. But the keyboard zoom option does seem to work only on the Apple one. Apple has more compatibility with iPad apps. So Clicker, which is a really, really useful education assisted technology app, I can't get it to work reliably with the dedicated cameras, but I can get it to work reliably with Clicker, with the Apple. And the special effect games, the one that I did the little promo video for, they currently only really work consistently with Apple. They don't work with the Hero or the TD Pilot. However, Bill Donegan contacted me to say that they are bringing out specific free apps for their games, so they will work with the eye gaze systems, I think in the early next year. Apple uses visible light instead of the corneal glint near infrared that's used, which means that it should work outdoors quite easily, but it does also mean that it needs adequate lighting. There's no position indicator when you're using Apple, which makes it a bit trickier to know where I'm supposed to be. Maybe it's not that necessary. It does have a lengthy calibration process. There are no options. You can't change the size of the stimuli. You can't change the colors. You can't change the pictures. I can't find a way of it supporting one eye. I tried just holding up my hand to an eye, and it goes a bit wacky. There's no step through option, so you just have to keep up with the thing as it moves around. The accuracy is hit and miss, and it's mostly miss, and this will be one of the big points from today, I think. Now, I have a slight squint, strabismus, something like that, and actually I have found that Windows eye gaze is much more robust for me compared to iPad eye gaze, even using the same trackers. So I reached out to the assistive technology community via Facebook, and I asked them what they thought about the accuracy, those that had used it. And as you can see from this slide, there were 40 votes. 12% said it's getting close. 1% which is half a person, I guess, said that it's on par with commercial trackers. 87% said it's nowhere good enough to even use. I don't know whether the eye gaze companies got in here to get voting, but that's where we're at with the group, and it's probably, people will probably think that's quite accurate. Okay. These are the settings for eye tracking when you've got iOS 18 for those that haven't seen it. So it's got smoothing and snap to item and zoom on keyboard keys. And these options also work if you're using a commercial tracker. But then the commercial trackers also have their apps, which have extra features such as monocular support, single eye support. The zoom on keyboard keys thing here seems to only work if you're using the Apple eye tracker and not the external eye tracking. But it's weird on this screen because you can turn eye tracking off but still have some of these other items enabled because you've got an external camera, plus the fact that loads of the features are in the assistive touch area where that link is at the bottom there in blue. It makes it quite confusing for somebody using this. So although iRespond said, you know, that places around the world who could experience eye gaze, they would need some training on setting this up because it's a bit confusing how it all works. So I find it a bit confusing. But there are, luckily, websites that offer that training, such as A-Center Learning. Anyway, the next slide actually has a video of me using it, which I'm sure you've been waiting to see. Watching somebody using eye gaze is a bit of a pain, but I've got subtitles. The video is about 3 minutes long. I hope you'll... Oh, sorry, it's not the next slide. It looks the same. It's coming up though, don't worry. This slide here just has the settings that you get to when you go to assistive touch. I just want to mention the dwell here says 1.5, but I've actually got it set to 1.2. The hot corners I'm going to demonstrate in these videos. So the hot corners exist for the iRespond and the TD Pilot and presumably the iTuitive as well, but they are quite useful ways of quickly pausing the dwell so that you don't have to keep selecting things. And you can also use them to recalibrate, and you can also use them to zoom in to get a better, so you can click on smaller things basically. Okay, these are the two iPads I'm using. The one on the left is an iPad Pro 6th Gen with an M2 chip. The one on the right is an iPad Pro with an M4 chip. They both have exactly the same camera, but the one on the left, the slightly older iPad, has the camera on the left side of the iPad. It's that little circle on the left side that you can see. The new one has the camera right in the middle at the top. So maybe that makes a difference where the camera is positioned. We'll see. Okay, this video is me demonstrating the 6th Gen device. It is on a table in front of me, so I'm looking down at it, and the camera is on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to play this video now.
With no sound, Charlie.
Oh, 1 second, please. No sound. I probably didn't press the sound option when I pressed share screen. I had meant to. Let me open up. Sorry about that. I can hear the sound at my end, but that's not useful for you. So I will just stop sharing and reshare then, if that's all right. That's probably the best way of doing it. So if you just hold on for a second to let me do that again.
Yeah, the subtitles are great, Deborah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's that one. Okay. And I need to sorry about this. I need to stop that presentation and I need to just go to the slide. Sorry about this. Okay, right. Let's try it now. So I'm now going to take my glasses off.
Have you got sound?
My glasses are single lens glasses.
That's great.
I have a myopia of about -4.
Apologies.
But my eye tracking when I have my glasses on is much worse than when I don't. So I'm going to forsake the ability to see the screen clearly and take my glasses off. Turn eye tracking on, and then I'm going to start following this eye point around, this stimuli. It goes to about 10 different places. You currently can't change the size of the point or the number of the points. You can't change the stimuli to a picture, and you may have noticed in the settings there was no option to track one eye either, which a lot of people benefit from. So this is your only option. I've got my finger over the camera, as you can tell, because it says bring your face. So it's got a bit muffled. But I'm now going to open up a communication aid. So here we have the aphasia vocabulary that comes with TD Snap, and I'm going to attempt to tell you that the weather is sunny and cloudy. So let me just try and do that. So I'm going to go to weather. So I'm fixating for 1.2 seconds. I'm going to say it's sunny and cloudy. It's quite a lot of effort. I'm not looking directly at the buttons. I'm looking sort of around the buttons. It's a lot more effort than I'd normally expect an eye gaze to be. I'm going to go to the pause. So in the top right corner, if I can get up to the top right corner, can't quite. Let me try the bottom right corner. I made those hot spots. Remember the hot spots that I made to be able to pause? But this time it can't quite get up there. Try the top left corners. There we go. Right, these corners here I've set to zoom. So now when I choose something, it's going to zoom in, and it lets me refine my choice. So I'm going to just show you that bottom left corner again. I can't quite get down there. It's very frustrating. Try the top left corner. Well, you saw the zoom. Let's see if I can try the pause again, because obviously when I'm looking at this, I don't want to constantly be selecting things. And you can add a dwell pause inside the assistive touch menu, which I'm trying to get to down there. It's tricky. But if I go to the top right of the screen, I should be able to get into that hot corner to do a pause. I'm not going to any of these other buttons, by the way. I'm just looking at the top right-hand corner. But despite that, it's doing these other movements. I just can't quite get up there, even if I look way too far. So you can see I can, if I say I'm hungry, or I might say I'm cold, or I might say something is wrong, or I can go back. So I can use the basic communication aid, go back to the quick fires, and I'm going to say hello. Oh, a little longer hold. And you can see it does work quite well. But when I want to do other things like pause the screen, it's very tricky. And if I were to try and get elsewhere on the device, I find it too difficult with my eyes. Now, this might be just for my eyes. Other people might find it easier. Okay. It was a pain to use. It was very, very fatiguing. But then I thought what I'd do is I'd try taking the iPad and lifting it up so it's high in order for my eyes to be a bit wider open. I want to say that at this point I've also switched to the newer iPad, but I've also recorded videos of me using the older iPad in this position, and I couldn't see a difference for me between the newer iPad and the older iPad. However, when the device is lifted up onto a shelf, the fatigue and the difficulty using the iPad do decrease quite a bit. So I'm just going to show you a video of that, and then there'll be a couple of slides, and then there'll be time for questions, if that's okay. This is a demonstration of the Apple built-in eye gaze to the iPad Pro 13-inch M4 iPad. So I'm going to initiate the eye gaze by pressing the triple click button 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And I have to go through the calibration process again. Now, the main difference between this setup and another setup that makes this work is the iPad is directly in front of me. I'm not looking down at it, which means my eyes are more open because my eyelids aren't lowered. So you should see that it's much more accurate than before. Okay, so I'm going to go into TD Snap. I'm going to clear here, I'm just using my finger. I'm going to go back, my fingers. Okay, now with my eyes, I'm going to go down to weather. Great. I'm going to tell you that it's cloudy.
Cloudy.
And I'm going to tell you that it's sunny.
Sunny.
And now I'm going to pause by going to this top left corner. And now I should be able to look around without making any interactions. There we go. Now I'm going to unpause by going into the top left-hand corner again. And it does feel a lot more accurate in this position. I think I can actually calibrate a little bit better. So I'm going to turn the eye gaze off. I'm going to turn it back on again. I'm going to calibrate a bit better now. You really do have to attend to this calibration very carefully. Even kind of skipping one of the points or not looking at it directly, getting distracted, really does affect the calibration of the whole screen. There's no option to improve the calibration. It doesn't give you results. You just feel it when you're using it. Now I'm going to use the grid. So I'm going to go to clear. And I'm going to say
something is wrong with my device.
And I'm going to say someone is looking over my shoulder. There we go. Or don't look over my shoulder. Oh.
Something is wrong with my device. Don't look over my shoulder.
And that feels a lot smoother. And it's actually quite usable, really, in this vocabulary. And I think I should be able to pause again. Up there. And now I can look around. And it's reasonably good. But as I'm using it, I can feel it's getting worse. So while it started off well, it got worse. And you could turn one of these hot corners to a recalibration option, but you'd be recalibrating a lot. So I've sort of lost it now.
Okay, so that's it. That's my experience. I would say that the Apple eye gaze is accurate enough to use on certain vocabularies, and Angela Murad has also found this by looking at one of the vocabularies that uses larger objects. So something like VocoChat or TD Snap with very big buttons, or the aphasia one could work. However, as I use it, first of all, the iPad has to be up high, like level. I don't know if you can see a video of me, but up here so that my eyes are wide open, not low down so that my eyelids drop a little bit. That seems to be a thing. The other thing is that it just suddenly or slowly loses accuracy and requires calibration. So you need to set up a corner to recalibrate, but then you have to go through that 10-step recalibration process. It seems to have a significant problem with presumably the reflections on my glasses. So I have to take my glasses off, and I've got pretty normal glasses, but that does seem to be a thing. But fundamentally, it's pretty good for the first run, and it's likely to get better as the technology improves. Maybe the camera gets better, maybe the machine learning gets better, or some algorithms get better. So it is likely to get better. It's not a bad start, but whether it's usable even in low and middle income countries, I'm not sure. Okay. That takes us to the end of this demonstration and discussion. If people have a question, I do have a slide about what Windows eye gaze can do if there's time, but otherwise I'm ready to take your questions with the remaining amount of time.
Thanks, Charlie. The chat has been pretty busy.
Right.
I'm just going to try, I've taken notes because I think I'd have to scroll quite far back up again, but yeah, somebody had actually asked quite early on, did you think that Apple will update the calibration process in future updates? And I suppose that's, you know, we are at early stages and first trial really.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll do it. They may even come up with a different way of calibrating, because we've been following this dot around for years. There's the dot, or there's the user-let dot, but there potentially are other ways to calibrate. For example, maybe you'll watch an advert for an iPhone or something like that, and it's able to know where you're looking while you're watching the advert, and then you'll calibrate based on that. Who knows? Yeah.
Interesting. Somebody said, is it a better experience if you speed up the gaze duration to maybe like 0.5 seconds or so?
Oh boy.
Somebody else has asked that too.
I would say no, not really. I mean, the benefit, the fixation wasn't
No, the problem was fixating, but the problem was also accuracy. So there would be so many hits if it was set to faster calibration, if it was set to 0.5. I think I can see it darting around, and to think that it would actually click on all of those things would probably be driving me crazy. But obviously it's down to each individual. Individuals might find it's better.
Yeah. And again, that's somebody else made a comment there about not wearing glasses, that could be a barrier for many AAC users as well, and that actually your head control and some of the barriers that some AAC users may have, you might not have had that as part of a fair test, I guess.
Exactly. I've got very static head control. My eyes are fairly well conjugated. They're well nourished, and all the other things that you require for good eye gaze. The only thing I've got is a slight strabismus or slight squint. But yeah, and there's also, we don't have tools like gaze analysis. As I said, we don't have monocular eye tracking. There's lots of things that are missing that I would use on a daily basis in my assessment clinics.
Yeah, gosh, the questions are coming thick and fast. Do you think similar eye tracking, like a front-facing camera capabilities, would be useful for Windows and Android operating system if the calibration issue is resolved?
I don't know. I think there's someone who could answer that question, because Apple's got loads of like machine learning stuff built into it. So I don't know. I think it also depends on the chips. Like the Intel chips, unless you've got a neural processor, you're able to process all that machine learning stuff. I don't know. I think it's the hardware that's inside the iPad as well, which is also why it doesn't work on older iPads, because it needs to do all the machine learning processing, I guess. Yep. I don't know. That's quite technical, but yeah. I mean, one day, if Microsoft's got eye gaze built into Windows, don't forget. But they may be looking and thinking maybe we should add this to the webcams, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
good
somebody asking about any preferences for iPad stands and mounts, because obviously it made a difference when it was lifted up.
Well, preferences. So again, it depends on the student, and I go through the SETT process. Here at SEMMAC, we use a lot of readapt equipment to be able to mount things like the TSXL table stand or other table stands to be able to mount iPads. We kind of want them mounted securely. Sometimes we go to school and see them on a pile of books or something, but we have table mounts for that. And of course, we also mount to wheelchairs as well if somebody needed it mounted to a wheelchair. But just to confirm, none of the students here at SEMMAC are currently using Apple eye gaze, but many of them are using other forms of eye gaze.
Dedicated, yeah.
Dedicated.
Okay, well, I think lots of hot discussion there, and I think yeah, as I said, I think it's early days, and there's probably a lot more to come. So that remains to say thanks everybody for joining us today. A huge thank you to Charlie. It was a big ask in a short time as well to get through that. And maybe it's we maybe revisit it in in the not too distant future, because I suspect the the updates will just keep coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you ever so much for having me.
All right.
Good luck, everybody.
Okay. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll be back next week with Luke Thompson looking at the 7 stages of switch development.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.